Okay, so have you ever heard that angels, like the spiritual beings, angels, have a connection to like the physical world around us?
Hmm.
Like, it's not something you hear every day, right?
Right.
But it turns out that this idea has a really long history. And it actually leads to some pretty surprising insights about how we've come to understand the universe.
Yeah, and it might sound a little out there at first, but the medieval philosopher Maimonides even linked an angel in charge of lust to the force of orgasm.
Whoa.
I know, right? It's definitely not your typical Sunday school lesson.
Definitely not.
Yeah,
But it does make you wonder what's going on there, right?
exactly.
Like, how could something as spiritual as an angel be connected to something as physical as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, it gets at a really fundamental shift in how people have thought about the world.
So we're going deep on this one, folks. We're talking angels and
I was
physics.
angels and physics. You got it.
And a big shout out to you, our amazing listeners. You guys sent in some fascinating material, especially from Aeon, that really got us thinking.
Yeah, Eon always has some thought-provoking stuff.
Seriously. And today we're diving into this unexpected role that angels played in the history of physics.
Yeah, it might sound like something out of a fantasy novel,
Right.
but these medieval ideas about angels actually help to lay some crucial groundwork for the science we rely on today.
It's true. So let's rewind a bit, right? Imagine a time before we had all these fancy scientific concepts like gravity, energy, magnetism.
Yeah,
Back then, people still needed ways to explain how things moved, why things happened.
and that's where angels came in.
Right, like they were seen as these movers and shakers of the cosmos.
Exactly. They were like the invisible forces behind everything.
So it wasn't just Maimonides with his unique take on angels.
Right.
This idea of angels being responsible for movement was actually pretty common in medieval times.
Yeah, people really saw them as these immaterial, intelligent beings, the ones making things happen.
Think about it. Like you look up at the night sky, you see
Yeah.
the planets moving across the stars.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, it wasn't just like, oh, they're just drifting. It was like, no angels are actively guiding them on their paths.
Yeah, it was a much more active and kind of almost personal view of the universe.
Totally. So you have these angels, right? Non-physical thinking beings, and they're running the show, but then you run into a bit of a problem.
Huh, oh, what kind of problem?
Well, as the belief in angels became more organized and systematic during this period called the Scholastic period,
Okay.
some tricky theological questions started to pop up.
Like what?
Like, if you have these angels that are immaterial,
Meaning they don't have physical bodies.
yeah, no physical body,
Right.
what exactly makes them different from God?
Ooh, that is a good question.
Right, because if they're pure intelligence, could they also be everywhere at once
Omnipresent.
and all-powerful?
Omnipotent.
Yeah, so it's like, are they just mini-gods?
Yeah, that's a big theological no-no.
Right, that's a tough balancing act.
Theologians were very careful to maintain that God was unique and supreme.
Yeah,
So if angels had unlimited presence and power, it would really blur those lines.
yeah, it would mess up the whole hierarchy.
Exactly. And so this led to all these intense debates about the fundamental nature of angels.
Okay.
Like, what are they really? What
Yeah.
can they actually do? And probably most importantly, where are they?
Where are they? That's a tricky one.
Right, because if something isn't physical, how can it even have a location
Yeah.
without being limited in the way that a physical object is?
Right. Like you can't say, oh, this angel is 3 feet tall and 2 feet wide.
Exactly. It's like trying to find the exact spot where a melody exists.
I like that. It's such a good analogy.
It's elusive.
Yeah, it's like, where is it?
Where is it?
It's everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
All right.
Okay, so no easy answers there.
No easy answers.
But to really understand this dilemma, we need to dive into the dominant scientific worldview of the time,
Okay.
and that's Aristotle's physics.
Oh, Aristotle's physics. This is where it gets juicy.
It does.
Yeah.
So can you give us the crash course in Aristotle's main ideas?
Absolutely. So Aristotle's physics was all about things moving according to their nature. Like fire goes up because that's just what fire does.
It's in its nature.
It's in its nature. Earth falls down because that's what Earth does.
Makes sense.
Right? There wasn't this concept of like a universal force like gravity that pulls everything together.
Okay.
It was all about these inherent tendencies.
Okay.
And then there's this idea of place, which is super important. So for Aristotle, place wasn't like this empty absolute space that Newton described later on.
Okay.
It was more like your specific spot in a room,
Okay.
defined by the room itself and all the other stuff in it.
Okay.
So empty space, vacuum was basically impossible in this model.
No vacuums allowed?
No vacuums allowed. And the very edge of the cosmos, the celestial sphere, that was like the ultimate up in this whole system.
Okay, so no empty space. Everything has its own direction. How in the world did they try to fit angels into this framework?
It was a real head scratcher.
Yeah.
Because if everything needs a place in Aristotle's sense, how do you locate an angel that isn't physical at all?
Yeah, it's like trying to squeeze a ghost into a box.
Right. It just doesn't quite fit. So Aquinas, who was this major thinker of the time, he came up with a pretty ingenious solution.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
He said that angels aren't located by taking up physical space, but by acting in a place, by using their power on things there.
Oh, so it's not about where they are physically.
Right.
It's about where their influence is felt.
Exactly. So an angel was in a place by what it was doing there.
Okay, so like if an angel was moving a planet,
Exactly.
it'd be located where that planet is.
You got it. This way, their presence and power could be limited,
Okay.
which addressed some of those theological concerns about them being too godlike.
Right. So it's a clever way to kind of sidestep the whole physical location problem.
It was a clever workaround for sure, but, things rarely stay simple in the world of theology and philosophy.
I have a feeling there's a but coming.
There is a
What
but.
have you written?
Things got even more complicated.
Okay, tell me more.
So in 1277, there were these things called the condemnations of 1277.
Okay, the condemnations.
Yeah, basically, church authorities were getting a little wary of some of Aristotle's ideas. And they issued a list of beliefs that were considered forbidden.
Forbidden knowledge.
Forbidden knowledge. It's always the most tempting kind.
It is.
But anyway, what's fascinating is that a lot of these forbidden ideas had to do with angels.
Really?
Yeah, and Aquinas' idea that angels were located only by their actions.
That was one of them.
That was one of them. The church insisted that angels had to be located by their very being.
Okay.
Not just what they were doing.
So it's like they were saying angels have to be somewhere even if they don't have a body.
Exactly. And this really threw a wrench into things.
Big time.
Because now the question became, if angels are non-physical, how can they be located by their being?
Yeah.
In a way that isn't restrictive, like having a physical body.
Right. It's back to that melody problem.
Exactly. Back to the melody. So Aquinas' neat solution was out the window.
Okay, so back to the drawing board.
Back to the drawing board. And this is where Duns Scotus enters the scene.
Duns Scotus, another big name.
A big name and a big thinker.
Okay, so how did he tackle this whole angel location conundrum?
Well, what Scotus did was truly groundbreaking.
Lay it on me.
He basically reimagined what place even meant.
Reimagined place.
Yeah, he shifted it away from Aristotle's idea of place as this directional container connected to physical objects.
Okay.
And made it more abstract, more like a mathematical dimension.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so think of it this way.
Okay.
The place of an object, in Scotus's view, its dimensional existence.
Okay.
That stays the same, even if its specific location changes.
I think I'm following.
So it's like, imagine a ball.
Okay.
The ball can move from your hand to a table to a box,
Right.
but its place in terms of its three-dimensional shape that remains constant.
Oh, I see. So it's like saying the ball is always a ball no matter where it is.
Exactly. It's always occupying a certain amount of space, a certain dimension.
Yeah.
And so Scotus basically neutralized place.
Neutralized.
He took away its inherent sense of up or down.
Interesting.
Yeah, and this paved the way for a concept that's much closer to our modern understanding of space.
Space.
Something that doesn't inherently have a direction.
So it's like space is just there.
It's just there. It's the background for everything.
Okay. That is a subtle but really profound shift.
Right.
So how did this new idea of place help with the whole angel problem?
Well, because place wasn't necessarily tied to physical bodies in the same way anymore.
Yes.
Scotus could argue that angels have this passive power to exist in a place.
Okay.
By God's will, without being defined or limited by that place like a physical object would be.
Okay, so they're in a place,
Yeah,
but they're not confined by it.
exactly. He famously used this analogy.
Okay, let's hear.
Think of a surface that needs a color,
Okay.
but the specific color it has can be any color.
Right.
So similarly, angels exist in a specific place.
They're somewhere.
Yeah, they're somewhere, but in a non-specific way. Okay.
Their non-physical essence isn't confined by that location like a solid object would be.
So they're there, but they're not.
They're there, but they're not limited by it.
It's like they're almost passing through it in a way.
Yeah, it's a very different way of thinking about existence.
Totally different. So it's like these intense theological debates about angels.
Yeah.
They actually forced a fundamental rethinking of concepts like place
Exactly.
that are absolutely central to physics.
Yeah, they were accidentally developing the conceptual tools for future scientists.
Without even realizing it.
Right. It's like they were laying the groundwork for a scientific revolution.
Yeah, it's amazing. And this impact lingered even after people stopped taking the idea of angels literally.
You're absolutely right. We see this in the emergence of what are called demons of physics.
Demons of physics.
Yeah.
Sounds ominous.
It does sound a little spooky, right?
Yeah.
But these were basically non-physical intelligent beings used in thought experiments.
Okay, thought experiments.
So not actual demons,
Right.
but hypothetical ones. Okay, phew.
So, for example, there's Laplace's demon.
Laplace's
Yeah, this all-knowing intelligence that theoretically could predict the future of the entire universe.
Whoa, that's a powerful demon.
Yeah, it's a thought experiment about determinism and the limits of knowledge.
Okay.
And then there's Maxwell's demon.
Maxwell's demon.
This one helped to reveal the connection between information and energy.
Interesting.
And then there are even more fantastical ones like the Philon Pearson demon,
Okay, the Philon Pearson demon.
or impossible abilities that defy the laws of physics.
Okay, so these demons are basically tools for pushing the boundaries of scientific thought.
Exactly.
It's like by imagining these beings with almost supernatural powers,
Yeah.
scientists could explore the limits of what's physically possible.
Right, and even figure out where those limits lie.
And it wasn't just about using these intelligent agents in thought experiments.
Right.
Reactions against these seemingly supernatural explanations also drove physics forward.
Yeah, so for instance, Einstein, he was very critical of anything that hinted at the occult.
Okay.
And his theories of relativity can actually be seen in part as a rejection of those lingering ghosts of absolute time and space.
Oh, that's fascinating.
It's like he was saying, look, we don't need these mystical explanations.
We could explain the universe with natural laws.
Exactly.
So it's almost like thinking about angels,
Even to disagree with them.
even to disagree with them.
Help to define the very boundaries of scientific inquiry.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
By wrestling with these non-physical forces,
Mm-hmm.
they were pushing the limits of what could be conceived and explained in purely physical terms.
They were pushing the boundaries of what science could handle.
Yeah, and it makes you think about the process of scientific discovery itself. Right?
Yes.
Because even without literal belief,
Mm-hmm.
the act of thinking through the nature of angels
Yeah.
helped people to bridge the gap between the physical and the non-physical.
In their minds.
Yeah, it allowed thinkers to grapple with concepts that went beyond what they could directly see and touch.
Right. And this is connected to an idea from that time called the Great Chain of Being.
The great chain of being.
Yeah, it was this hierarchical view of the universe
Okay.
with God at the top,
Okay.
and then angels,
Okay.
and then humans,
And then all the way down.
all the way down to the lowliest creatures.
Right.
And angels were seen as these crucial links connecting humanity to the divine.
Okay, so they were like the intermediaries.
Exactly. And this way of thinking encouraged people to explore these different levels of reality.
And it makes you wonder about how our own minds work.
How so?
Well, we often understand new ideas
Mm-hmm.
by relating them to things we already know.
Yeah, we build on what we're familiar with,
Exactly. So maybe thinking of invisible forces as angels,
with familiar characteristics.
like intention and agency.
Yeah,
Maybe that was just a natural first step
right.
in trying to make sense of the universe.
It's like using a metaphor to grasp something that's beyond our immediate
It's
experience.
like, okay, I can't see gravity, but I can imagine an angel pushing the planets around.
Yeah, and that gives you a starting point for understanding.
Exactly. And there's actually research in cognitive science that supports this idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it suggests that even our most complex, abstract concepts are often rooted in our physical experiences.
So we use our bodily understanding to grasp even the most abstract ideas.
Exactly. So thinking of an unseen force as an agent.
With a will.
Yeah, even if it's an angel,
Mm-hmm.
that might be a more intuitive starting point
Right.
than immediately grasping the abstract mathematics of fields and forces.
Yeah, it's like a stepping stone to a more complex understanding.
Okay, so let's bring it all back around.
Okay.
This deep dive into medieval angelology.
Yeah,
It reveals a really unexpected connection.
it does.
These seemingly abstract theological debates about angels.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't just academic exercises.
Right.
They actually played a surprisingly significant role in shaping the very foundations of modern physics.
It's true.
By forcing thinkers to refine their understanding of fundamental concepts.
Like place.
Like place, space, motion.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And while it might seem like a huge leap from angels to astrophysics,
It does seem like a leap.
the historical link is definitely there.
It's undeniable.
It's like the intellectual struggles of trying to understand these spiritual beings.
Mhm.
They inadvertently provided crucial tools and perspectives that helped pave the way for the scientific revolution.
And all because they were trying to figure out where angels fit in the universe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like this reminder that sometimes progress comes from the most unexpected places.
Absolutely.
So considering how this seemingly abstract idea of angels
Mm-hmm.
helped to refine our understanding of space and dimension,
Yeah.
what seemingly unrelated fields today
Mm.
might be holding the key to future scientific breakthroughs,
Ooh, that's a great question.
right? Like, what are we thinking about now?
Yeah.
That might seem totally unrelated to science, but
Right.
could actually lead to some amazing discoveries down the line.
It's like those angels in physics all over again.
Yeah, food for thought.
It definitely is.
So if you enjoyed this deep dive as much as we did, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave a comment.
Yes, please do.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on this surprising connection between angelology and physics.
Yeah, especially any ideas you have about those fields that might lead to future breakthroughs.
Yeah, what are the angels of today?
What are the angels of today exactly?
And be sure to mention Aeon as the source that inspired this fascinating exploration.
Yes, Eon's awesome.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And if you're really keen to delve even deeper,
Yeah.
we highly recommend exploring the history of physics, the philosophy of space and time,
Oh, yeah.
and even some medieval theology.
You never know what connections you might find.
Seriously. There's a whole universe of fascinating ideas out there just waiting to be discovered.
Happy exploring, everyone.
Until next time.
Bye.